Hello, my name is Gina and I have no idea what I'm about to film. This video is going to be about what you should do if and when you buy like a large batch of makeup all at once. One of the things that can get people into trouble, and one of the things that can get people into feeling overwhelmed by their makeup collection, is like bad organization, bad workflow, bad experiences, I guess, to be very loose about it. In the spring, I actually declutter a lot of eyeshadow that I ended up regretting. And I realized that after I did this, that I wasn't using those eyeshadows because they weren't efficiently organized. And that's part of the impetus for, this series on my channel. And an extension of that is when you get a large influx of makeup, whether it's Christmas, whether you bought a bunch of stuff, managing just that influx. With all that said, let's go ahead and get into it. Whenever you get a large influx of makeup, or even really just a medium influx, if you buy a palette or two, or a new foundation, or whatever floats your boat, the first thing that you should do is isolate that from the rest of your collection. Now, so it can be really tempting to put that palette that you just bought on your shelf of palettes or in your drawer or what have you, but that palette is at somewhat of a disadvantage to the rest of your collection in that you don't know it as well. And so you need to spend some time getting to know your new stuff. The last time I bought a palette, I believe it was the Pinky Rose Bright Lights palette. I sat that palette on my desk and it stayed front and center. I actually put away all of my depotted eyeshadows. I put them to the side and I said, okay, for a week, I'm only using this. And I can pull in other things if I need to, but the core of every look that I do for the next week is this palette. And my goal is to use at least once everything in there. For my single shadows that I bought, a lot of you know that I actually made 2 temporary palettes of all of the new stuff that I had bought. Like this single palette right here is about a quarter of the sum total eyeshadows that I own. And the rest of my eyeshadows are in a drawer. I don't, for the most part, touch them unless I need something specific. And that allows me to get to know everything that I've bought. If what you've bought is a bunch of foundation or a bunch of blush, like put it out in your area. Or if you don't have a dedicated makeup area, if you have baskets, like have a basket of stuff. Like I must use this first. And that allows you to get to know the product and know where it belongs in your rotation of stuff. I think that sometimes when we buy anything new, we don't always give it its fair shot. So this tip and trick is designed to use the shiny factor, the excitement of something new, to kind of force you and push you through to get to know new things. So for me, I have my 2 big temporary palettes. I have all of my pigments in a little container on my desk. And the only thing that doesn't have like major airtime is my glitters, just because I don't use glitter that often. When I bought that much glitter, I was like, this is all of the glitter I'm ever going to need in my entire life. Which is not true, but that was the idea. The second thing that I would suggest, and this is for like a large influx, so like after the holidays, or if you're like me and you hit up like the Sydney Grace sale and you have a bunch of little things that you've acquired, this tip is to make a list of them. Now, I'm gonna put on my huge nerd hat here and kind of admit I actually have an inventory of all of my makeup, all of my eyeshadow. I would like to inventory the other products that I have, I just haven't gotten around to it, but as an aside. But this list doesn't have to be as complex as something that I've got, which is like a multi-tab spreadsheet. You can just get a piece of paper or a Google Doc and just make a list in whatever way works for you of everything that you bought. And keep track of when you've used it. For me, with these shades, my system right now is to tally it, or tally a shadow when I have used it, when I know that I have used it, and just keep track of it that way. And with that list, you can just write it down, and then you can cross things out when you're done with them or when you feel like you've gotten to know them. But I would also encourage you to take notes. So maybe you want a 2-column list. Maybe you want 1-tab spreadsheet. And just take some notes. Like, what did you think of it? How did you like it? What are some like usage notes? So for example, I have the Touch of Glam Vivids. These are amazing as eyeshadow toppers. They have a really great texture to them. And once I get all of my eyeshadow back into my main palettes, when I have 4 palettes of eyeshadows, I might forget that. I might forget that this sparkly blue thing is great as a topper and kind of middling at other things. So take some notes. You don't necessarily have to, but especially when you get a lot of stuff at once, I find it to be pretty useful. The third tip is again for another large influx of stuff, and that is to move things out of the new spot once you've used them a certain number of times. And I can actually show you a little bit of what I mean. Just give me 1 second. So this is a Give Me Glow XXL palette. It's large. And you might be wondering why there are only 3 eyeshadows in here. These are actually from my temporary palette, and these are the shades that as of right now, I know that I have used 3 times. And the reason why I did this is because I know that I gravitate towards particular shades, particular colors, more than others. I really like yellows. I find them incredibly useful. I really like greens. It's my favorite color of all time. Purples, super useful. Reds, also really useful. So in order to make sure that I get use out of everything, I want to remove things that are going to pull my attention away from using everything else. So removing things from your new spot once you feel like you've got a good sense of them is really helpful in making sure that you do actually use everything. For me in particular, since I have about 200 eyeshadows to go through, it's really important because, as I said, I am drawn to particular shades, and particular shades in particular are distracting, to put it one way. So moving those distractions out helps me, and it also tells me which ones I liked the best. And that's also really helpful information. The 4th tip is probably something that should have come first, but it's just to take a break. You don't necessarily have to go on like a full no-buy or a full low-buy. That's not really something that I think is right for everybody, and I know that it's not right for myself. But just say like, I need to spend some time with the stuff that I have. And if I'm constantly getting new stuff, then I don't really have the opportunity to really know what I just got. And I don't really have the opportunity to really have a kind of quote unquote settled collection. Do whatever works for you, but I would just emphasize that having essentially some alone time with the things that are new to you is really valuable. When you're finally ready to integrate everything into your general organization, take some time to test out your new stuff with your current stuff. So if I buy a blush and I spend time with it, I use it, and once I'm ready, once I've got a sense of it, I just stick it in a drawer, that's not super helpful, because I might have a blush that's the exact same color, formula, what have you, kind of in my blush drawer. This is not a thing that's going to happen because I have like 4 blushes, but I would want to know if I just bought something that's the same as something that I already have. And for some people, and even for me, like having duplicates isn't a huge deal, but it's still something that you would want to know. So when I go to integrate all of my eyeshadows back into my big workflow, I'm going to take time and do a shit ton of swatching to see if I have duplicates. I always attempt to avoid duplicates when I'm purchasing, but it happens. This is especially true if you work with palettes, if palettes are your main workflow, like pre-constructed palettes. A lot of those neutral colors are the same, and it is helpful to know what you have and what you don't have, all relative to each other. Hannah Louise Poston has at times referred to something like a makeup mind palace, and I have so much makeup, I can't hold it all in my mind palace, and I'm okay with that, and that's not how I experience makeup. But kind of how a mind palace works, at least if she's referencing Sherlock, is that you can keep things in your head, in your memory, if you understand, if you have interwoven connections between them. So for example, if I have an old eyeshadow and it's been in my collection so long, it kind of gets shuffled around, and I know it's there, but I'm not going to be able to like recall it as easily. If I have an eyeshadow that I just bought and that I'm like super excited about, and I know that these two shadows are related, the shadow that is more immediately present in my life, maybe the new one, kind of keeps the old one afloat in my memory by their connections together. And that is why when you go back to integrate everything together, knowing the relationship between things is super important and super helpful, and is pretty crucial to do if you want to manage a large collection. The last tip that I have is just to rethink your organization if you need to when you go back to reintegrate. Keep in mind that like when you buy a lot of stuff, when you acquire a lot of stuff, or even a small number of things, your needs for organization might change. And I'm going to talk a little bit about like just broad principles of organization and how to go about organizing your stuff in a way that keeps you from being overwhelmed. But it is a constant process. An organizational scheme, a setup, whether it's drawers or shelves or whatever, works for a certain amount of stuff. And if you change the amount of stuff, you might have to change the organizational scheme too. So I think that's all I have to say. I want to do a recap for you, but that recap might not be in order, or some things might get smushed together because a lot of what I was just doing was kind of off the cuff. So let's recap. When you buy a lot of stuff at once, you want to separate it from your existing collection and spend time only using that or primarily using that. 2 is to keep a list of everything that you've bought and take notes as well on what you liked about it, what you didn't, and just general thoughts, things that it's good for. 3 is to mark things off when you're done with them and when you feel like you've gotten to know it better. Then once you've crossed them off that list, go ahead and remove them from that special place that your new stuff has. 4 is to take the time to meaningfully reintegrate your new stuff into your existing collection once you feel like you've gotten to know it. 5 is to rethink your organization scheme when you go back to reintegrate, knowing that when you have a lot of stuff, you might have to change how you organize it. And then as I was talking, I actually remembered that I forgot, I think probably the most important thing, and that is to take a break. It doesn't have to be that serious. It doesn't have to be something that you hold yourself to or shame yourself for if you quote unquote break, but just take some time alone with your new stuff. And hopefully all of those things will help you integrate a lot of stuff into your collection without feeling too overwhelmed and without feeling like you have to get rid of stuff, unless you absolutely want to. That is all I have to say on this. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you liked this video, please do give me a thumbs up. It really helps me out. And also leave me a comment down below. What do you do when you get a bunch of stuff all at once and you're not really sure how to approach it? I would really like to hear it. If you like me and my flowing red hair, please do subscribe to the channel. My uploads are a little inconsistent right now as I'm going through a life transition, but I can guarantee you at least one video a week for a while. You can find me on the internet at Faces by Gina. I have a Facebook and an Instagram under that name where I upload every single day. I hope that you're having a great day no matter where you are, and please do remember to think deeply and critically about the world around you and be good to yourself and good to other people as well. I'll see you out there on the internet. Bye.